Hello everybody, a very good morning. Just allow me a moment as I set up the apparatus for the class. Just today is perhaps I think the last or the penultimate session when it comes to fact, inference, and judgment. After this, we'll take up something else. Yeah, and apart from this, I'm again doing another session at 2 p.m. today. So do try and tune in then as well. And yes, as always, before we begin with the practice, allow me to quickly introduce myself as well as the Unacademy platform. Right now, you're at the Unacademy CAT4MBA YouTube channel. Similarly, we conduct classes on the platform as well. And I am Prankur Arora. I'm going to be your instructor. Uh, I'm a trainer, a writer, a coach. I'm a published author. I hold advanced certifications in facilitation from Leadership Management International, and I co founded the startup by the name of Thought Sutra. So, yeah, that's pretty much about me. Now, as I was saying, this is the YouTube channel, but at the same time, we conduct classes on the platform as well. The idea is that on the platform, there's real time enablement for interaction between the learners as well as the educator. Question answers are conducted in the form of polls. We have structured courses by hundreds of educators. We regularly conduct tests and quizzes as well, and with one subscription, you'll get unlimited access to it all. All kinds of live and recorded courses that you can access from the comfort of any of your devices. Uh, Detailed analysis on your performance when it comes to all the tests and quizzes, right? These are the various subscription models. As the time period goes up, the cost of the subscription per month goes down. And if you use my name Prankur, you will get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you go for, right? I would, if you're preparing for 2021, I would recommend at least a 6 month journey because that gives you the comfort of time to be able to do well in these exams. Having said that, let's begin with the first question. Today, I'm not going to be giving you options, right? Today, because we've been doing this for a while, we've been studying FIJs for a while. So today, we're going to be doing it devoid of any options. Try to figure them out as it is. Let me know what you make of these statements. Which of these do you think is a fact? Which of these is an inference? And which of these is a judgment? Alright, let's go through all the statements one by one now. The very first, okay, Asim says F triple I. Okay, let's figure it out. I agree to the idea that the first statement is a fact, right? A nanoparticle is a microscopic particle the size of 1000 the thickness of a single strand of human hair. Now, the idea is that you can verify this from various books and various researchers and websites pertaining to nanoparticles. So, it is a fact in that regard. Right. Now, when you look at the second one, these particles are currently used in electronics, cosmetics, and chemical industries. Understand that for an inference, I've told multiple times that you break it down into two components. One is a known component and the other is an unknown component. You're concluding something about the unknown logically from the known component. This sentence does not have two components. It's a fact, right? That these particles are currently used in electronics, cosmetics, and chemical industries. You can verify it, you can look for evidence for it. So this becomes a fact in that regard, right? It is verifiable. You can go to manufacturing entities for electronics, cosmetics, and chemical industries and find out whether this is true or not, right? The third one, a study on these particles suggests that these particles should damage DNA and lead to cancer. Now the idea is suggests that these particles should damage is basically it is concluded from the study done on these particles, right? Therefore I agree, it is an inference in that regard, right? This is an inference. This field is currently an area of intense scientific research and has a long way to go. Now when we say and has a long way to go, what are we doing? We are basically giving an opinion. So the last statement in that regard becomes a judgment. Are you getting my point? So the idea is the answer becomes FFIJ. Hi Shruti, I apologize. See, when I start explaining the questions, I look away from the chat. I just saw that you were asking me to wait. But no worries, we have multiple questions. Question number two. All right, JFJI. Okay. What do you make of this, Shruti? Okay, let's discuss this now. Shruti, we're going to discuss it now. So, statement number one, for good suburban, urban, and adjacent land use, we will need to resort increasingly to public ownership. मेरे कमेंट नहीं आ रहे क्या सर? बस ये वाला कमेंट आया है आपका, और तो कुछ नहीं आया. I type in your answer again. We will need to resort increasingly to public ownership of strategic land areas. Clearly, this is the author's personal opinion. When we say we will need to do this, that means the author is giving it as much importance. It is not really rooted in anything else. So, this becomes a judgment there. I agree. Private land ownership has in the past clearly favored quick returns over environmentally sound use. This is verifiable from history books and it becomes a fact. Only the state is capable of using. So it is not visible. It is not really visible on the chat to me, Shruti. Only the state is capable of using such land to achieve social and aesthetic goals. Because of the word only, it becomes clearly a judgment. And the last one, but given the bureaucracy and corruption in the municipal government, this is the known component, right? It is likely that even the state will not be. Logically, you are concluding about the unknown here, so this one becomes an inference. So the answer is, in fact, J, F, J, I. Cool. Next question. Yes, J double I F. All right. What do you make of this, Asim? J I J F. All right. Um, Okay, so the first one is obviously the author's opinion. By censoring the action of others, they are deprived of the opportunity of exchanging error for truth. If they're wrong, they lose what is almost a great benefit, the clearer perception and livelier impressions of truth. This is clearly the author's personal opinion, and hence it is a judgment. It cannot be a fact because people can have different opinions regarding the truth of this, right? The second one, if society fails, this should be fails to educate a person to its mode of proper conduct, society as a whole is guilty. Now, clearly, again, this is a judgment as it is author's opinion. This is not really a fact, right? Society as a whole is guilty if the society fails to educate a person. This is a judgment. This is an opinion. You can choose to agree or disagree with it. The third one, the individual, as long as he's not harmed others, does not deserve to be punished. Now, again, guys, this is a judgment as well. This is a judgment as well, right? The individual, as long as he's not harmed others, does not deserve to be punished. We cannot really classify this as an inference at all, right? This is not how the justice system is built. This is not how morality works, right? This is a personal bias that you might have. And finally, the last one. According to all statistical indication, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace with ambitious goals. Now, according to all statistical indication, this is the known component. You are logically rationalizing the idea that Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace with additional goals, right? So you're concluding about this component based on statistical indications, right? So instead of it becoming a fact, it is an inference where the first part of the statement is a fact and it is supporting the second part of the statement, right? And also this part, the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace with ambitious goals. It is not verifiable whether Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan has managed to keep pace or not. It is something that can, uh, it is something that can be tracked in different manners by different people, right? So we are using the first component to conclude or support the cause of the second component of the sentence. So this becomes an inference in that regard. So therefore, the answer is J, 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 I. I hope this makes sense. Next question. हाँ जी, हाँ जी। अब आ रहा है श्रुति, अब आ रहा है। IJII, ओके। इन्फ्रेंस जजमेंट, इन्फ्रेंस, ओके। Inference, fact, inference, okay. So, the first statement, export accounts for 60% of the industry's revenues. An indication perhaps the Indian biotech industry is yet to. So, this is a fact, and this portion is a conclusion that you're basing on this very fact. So, this becomes an inference, most definitely. The first statement is an inference. The second one, repression is the foundation from which all other defense mechanism works. The goal of every defense mechanism is to repress or push threatening impulses out of awareness. The goal of every defense mechanism. See, understand that I cannot really classify this as a fact, Asim. Why? Because this will shift with different perspectives, right? The goal of defense mechanisms is to repress. Some would say it is to be aggressive. It is not to be repressive, right? So repression, oppression, these are not really the only goals. Sometimes the others would say the goal of the defense is to maintain vigilance and to maintain peace on the borders, right? So their repression would not work. So it is something that can shift with opinions, and therefore I would classify this as a judgment. Uh, a third one, the Earth has the availability of oxygen and other gases in sufficient amount. Moon should have a similar atmosphere because of its proximity to the Earth. This is an inference. It is drawn about Moon's climate as per its location with respect to the Earth, right? So this becomes an inference. Finally, the fourth one, one thing that makes developing countries see red in the climate change discourse is talk of emission cuts based on present emission levels, which punishes poorer countries which pollute less. Now, um, when we say one thing that makes developing countries see red in the climate change discourse is talk of emission cuts. Now, understand that when I talk about this, uh, I agree with the both of you that it is in fact an inference, right? It is in fact an inference because you're basing it on the idea of emission cuts based on present emission levels, which punishes poorer countries which pollute less, right? So you are basically logically threading the first part of the sentence to the second part, so therefore it becomes an inference as well, and the answer is I. So I think Shruti got this right. Well done, Shruti. Next question. IFJI. All right. All right. What do you make of this, Asim? ठीक है, लॉक कर दिया श्रुति अब मैंने. नो फर्दर चेंजेस अलाउड. FFII. Okay. A study of 500 youngsters revealed that fathers who have not set clear limits for their kids are more likely to have heavier children. Uh, it is clearly an inference, right? As the conclusion is backed by a study of 500 youngsters, right? So we are studying these youngsters, right? And the study is revealing this, that kids are more likely. So this is the conclusion that you're drawing from the study, right? So there it becomes an inference. Second one, childhood obesity is growing in Australia with more than 20% preschool children either overweight or obese. So this is clearly a fact, right? Uh, Obese school children are very likely to become obese adults. Now, it is an opinion. It is an opinion. It is not really a verifiable. It is not really rooted in a verifiable fact, right? And for this to count as an inference, remember, Asim, you always have a known component from which you are concluding about an unknown component, and it is a logical conclusion, right? But this is not something that is logical. Obese school children are very likely to become obese adults. या तो आप percentage दो मेरे को कि पहले तक इतना हुआ है तो आने वाले टाइम में ऐसा होने वाला है, राइट? व्हेन यू ड्रॉ inferences based on facts, that is where it makes sense, that is where it is logically applicable. Here it becomes a clear judgment. It is an opinion that these people who are fat as kids, they will be fat as adults as well. When parents eat a variety of food that is low in fat and sugar and high in fiber, children learn to like these foods as well. Again, see, the idea is, Shruti, this is a judgment because both these parts, when parents eat a variety of food that is low in fat and sugar and high in fiber, sorry, yahan tak, not till here. So it does have two parts, this sentence, but both of these parts are not really verifiable, right? Both of these parts have not been presented as rooted in any evidence or data, right? So they're not verifiable at all. Children learn to like these foods as well. It's such a subjective statement, therefore I will call this a judgment as well. It is just an opinion. It is just an opinion. It is not really verifiable as a fact or logically reachable as a conclusion. ठीक है? Next question. So I think you did get it right. Hmm. All right. Okay. I think the papers that I've picked up these questions from, these are all, previous year papers that I dug up from various portals. They have been typed, right? They've been typed, and that is, someone would not have had the liberty of copying and pasting them, and that is why there are a lot of typos. Now that I read these questions, there are quite a lot of typos. All right, both of you have the same answer, FIFF. Okay. Um, in the two or three following centuries, Abhidhamma texts were composed, systemizing and thus interpreting the teachings in the form of intricate analysis of the working of the mind. Uh, यार यहाँ पे देखो लास्ट वाला जो कॉम्पोनेंट है ना इस सेंटेंस का, systemizing and thus interpreting the teachings in the form of intricate analysis of the working of the mind. This is something that they are basically concluding from the fact that it is something that is based in the Buddhist texts and that is a verifiable fact, right? In the two or three following centuries, yeah, 2 or 3 following centuries से लेके compose तक, this is a verifiable fact that there are Buddhist texts. वहां से you are concluding that working of the mind, analysis of the working of the mind can be systemized and interpreted in the teachings, right? So therefore, the first statement, instead of being a fact, can be classified as an inference. The second one, the new texts were ascribed by the Mahayanists to the Buddha, as they held that visionary and meditative experience could still contact him or draw on the wisdom that had informed him. Uh, Visionary and meditative experience. This is something very, very abstract, right? This is something very, very abstract. This is not something that is verifiable. This is not something that is based in evidence. So, therefore, instead of classifying this as an inference, I would call this a judgment. Because when you declare something visionary and meditative, as when you declare something as a visionary and meditative experience, you're not really backing up that claim with anything, right? How do I interpret it as the same? What if I perceived it in a different manner if I were to experience it? Maybe for me it is not visionary and meditative at all. ठीक है, तो I can choose to disagree to this because it is not really a logical way of describing something, right? The third one. Soon after Buddha died, a monastic council was held to agree on the contents of his teachings, which were to be passed by communal chanting. This is a verifiable fact, right? And the last one, the Mahayana saw the earlier teaching as provisional ones and included in their texts a critique of the early schools, of which there had developed around 18. Now, Mahayana saw the earlier teaching as provisional ones is a conclusion as it can be derived from the other part of the statement, which is basically a verifiable fact. So I would call this so I would really, sorry, instead of calling this a fact, wait, I would call this as in an inference. Again, the Mahayana saw the earlier teachings as provisional ones and included in their texts a critique of the early schools, of which there had developed around 18. Sorry, wait. No, no, this will not be an inference. This will be a fact only. I agree with the two of you. This is a fact because I'm not really concluding about this. I'm just stating it as a matter of fact. Okay, so this is a fact. So the answer is IJFF. Yeah. So the two of you got the last two sentences right, but not the first couple of sentences, which is okay. These are tougher questions that we are solving today. J triple F I. Okay. Do we have your submission, Asim? Inference. Fact and then triple I. Okay. So the first statement: professional intellectuals are the voice of a culture and are therefore its leaders, its integrators, and its bodyguards. See, understand, since this entire statement is talking about something very very subjective and generalized, right? There is no verifiable component to it, so I cannot classify this as an inference, Asim. I would rather classify this as a judgment, right? Because it contains a lot of subjective generalization, where there is no backing to it. There is no backbone to basically stand upon. So therefore, I would classify this as a judgment. The second one: bankruptcy is defined as the state of being at one's ends of resources. It is verifiable, it is fully objective, and hence a fact. Honda introduces a small user-friendly motorcycle into a US market dominated by big bikes and a big leather jacket image. Again, it is we can verify about the product, thus the statement becomes a fact. He had always believed that the sheep were able to understand what he said. Now here understand that this is verifiable from the person. I'm directly talking about a person, right? So we can verify this from the person and therefore it also becomes a fact. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड यहाँ पे फैक्ट क्या है. यहाँ पे फैक्ट ये नहीं है कि वो कर सकता था या वो नहीं कर सकता था. फैक्ट इज कि वो बिलीव करता था दैट शीप वर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट ही सेड. सो द फैक्ट इज दैट ही बिलीव्ड इट. It is not a fact that whether sheep were able to understand him or not. The fact of the matter is that he believed that sheep were able to understand. So I can verify this. And finally, the last one: in order to meet the increasing demand, I feel it was essential for ASMO to increase its production capacity. I feel, right? The conclusion is about something that is, in order to meet the increasing demand, I feel that it was essential for ASMO to increase its production capacity. यहाँ पे I can maybe classify this as an inference. Yeah, I can classify this as an inference because in order to meet its demand, this is what was essential for ASMO to do. So this is an inference. So the answer is J triple F I. I think Shruti got this right. Yeah, Shruti got this right. Good job, Shruti. Next question. Hanji. JFJI. All right. Okay, guys, there seems to have been a mistake here. This is the third sentence, this is the fourth one, and this is the fifth one. Shruti, I would request you to kind of and Asim as well, guys. Just verify this. So this is the third statement, this is the fourth one, and this is the fifth one. तो एक बार दोबारा से evaluate करके just send in your answers. Okay, JFJI. All right. So the first one, the root cause of terrorism is the erosion of family values and commercialization of education. Clearly, it is a very generalized statement, might not hold true for all cases, and therefore it becomes an opinion, it becomes a judgment. Julian's outrageous courtroom theatrics regularly made the front pages of the newspapers. This is a verifiable fact, right? You are talking about Julian, and you can verify whether Julian was actually doing it and making it to the newspapers or not, right? You can look it up, you can talk to Julian, you can verify it as a claim. The third one, I think, therefore I am, and I should be because I think, again, a very who is I here, it is not verifiable, it is very subjective, and therefore it is a judgment. Fourth one, to maintain its preeminent position and to earn its high fees, the firm seeks out the cream of each year's crop of business school graduates, right? So, to be able to accomplish this, the firm does this, right? So, it is basically a conclusion which is based on a fact, and therefore it becomes your inference. And finally, the last one, the government replaced the old EPZ regime by a new scheme of special economic zones with several lucrative incentives, benefits that were not available in the earlier scheme, and this policy is expected to give a big push to exports, employment, and investment in SEZs. Understand that the government did something which will result in something, right? This is basically the structure of the sentence, right? Therefore, this is an inference or a conclusion which is based on a certain fact of what the government did. There is a certain set of expectations that have been established based on what the government did, right? So it becomes an inference in that regard. So the answer is J F J I. सर बट इसमें फोर में कोई फैक्ट थोड़ी है, अभी तो उसने अर्न नहीं किया. फोर्थ में टू मेंटेन इट्स प्री एमिनेंट, बट आप यहाँ पे बेसिकली आपका वो दिखा दिया ना कि इट इज the idea is that the firm does this every year. So this is a fact that the firm seeks out cream of each year's crop of business school graduates to do what? To do this. So it is basically a logical step कि मैं preeminent position maintain करने के लिए, मैं अपनी high fees लेने के लिए, so logically what am I doing? I am क्या कहते हैं, and understand that it is structured in the simple present tense. Simple present tense का मतलब है that the firm does this every year. Every year it recruits a lot of business school graduates to maintain its preeminent position. right? So you're concluding that to maintain its preeminent position, the firm recruits top business school graduates every year. अर्न वो हर साल करती है, इज व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू गेट एट, दैट दे आर रिक्रूटिंग एवरी ईयर. सिंपल प्रेजेंट टेंस में स्ट्रक्चर्ड है ना. सिंपल प्रेजेंट टेंस मीन्स दैट इट इज a matter of fact, it is happening every year. All right, next question. So guys, after this at 11 o'clock, I am conducting a parajumbles class on the platform, and then at 2 o'clock, I'll be going live on YouTube again, wherein we'll be practicing reading comprehensions. Short passages as well as one long passage. That is for 2 o'clock, and right now at 11 o'clock, parajumbles. Triple J I, okay. JJFI. So the answer to this is Buddhism, which flourished in ancient India as one of its great faith traditions, is today a minority religion in the country. Now understand that इसको as a judgment classify करने के लिए मतलब what is the opinion here, right? This is something that I can verify. I can go back and check whether it flourished in ancient India or not, and I can check in today's census whether it is a minority religion or a majority religion, or what proportion of the population is actually practicing Buddhism. So it is verifiable, no? So I would call this a fact. Again, a verifiable statement is that its followers numerically the fourth minority at the national level. I can look at the census statistics and I can figure it out. So it is a fact. I can verify it. The third one, Buddhism cannot exist without faith. Cannot exist without faith is a personal opinion. So it becomes a judgment there. And Buddhism preaches the theory of cause and effect. You can look up the books and see whether it does or not. And then when we say it makes it relevant in the present world and can be used to overcome, this is a conclusion that you're basing on the idea that it preaches the theory of cause and effect. So this becomes an inference. So the answer is FFJI. ठीक है, चलो आई रैप अप द क्लास नाउ, क्योंकि फिर 11 बजे पैरा जम्बल्स भी स्टार्ट करना है. दीज क्वेश्चंस विल डू टुमारो, जो थोड़े बहुत बच गए हैं. वी आर लॉन्चिंग द आइकॉनिक सब्सक्रिप्शन एट कैट, wherein you get personal mentors along with all the plus benefits. The next Unacademy Combat is on February 28th at 12 p.m., which is Sunday. You can unlock it using my name, Prankur. And apart from this, these are the new batches. On the 27th, we are launching a complete weekend batch for CAT 2021. See whether you'd want to enroll in this or not. With this, I'll end the session now. Thank you so much for tuning in, Asim and Shruti. I hope to see you guys for the other two sessions as well.